Starting off at the tippity top right away, AI is creating a generation of illiterate programmers. You know this one's going right to my heart. This blog was clearly written. This is for me, okay? A couple days ago, Cursor went down during the ChatGPT outage. By the way, I know we're one sentence into an article, okay? We are literally one sentence into an article. But I must say this, that nothing is more important than having your own offline models. I actually am becoming more and more completely convinced of this, that offline models are the way to go. Having your own little Raspberry Pi, Mac Minis, Jippity GPUs going, like, that's the only way to combat this, and that you shouldn't have to rely on these larger companies. I am completely convinced that these larger companies, all they want you to do is to be stupid and incapable of running your own stuff, so that way they can charge you monthly fees. And then here's the best part about it, is that it's not just gonna be one company with one monthly fee. You're gonna have a monthly fee that is derived from a company using another company that's using another company. You're gonna have a monthly fee on a monthly fee that's from a monthly fee. You know that old thing where it's just like Vercel and then they pull off the mask and it's just AWS with 500% markup? That's all AI is going to be. It's just ChatGPT or Anthropic or whatever, just with a whole bunch of markup. That's all it's gonna be. You're paying more for AI tools than rent. Yes, you are, yeah. It's just all markup. It's all markup, and I want that to die. Anyways, sorry for my epic, not epic, perhaps ignorant rant. I'm not really sure, but I think this is all crazy. Time for a local. Yes. So just so everybody knows, I have bought thousands of dollars of Mac Mini. I'm going to also buy a whole bunch of Raspberry Pis. I'm also going to attempt to get access to a TinyGrad box, a bunch of GPUs. I'm going to compare a bunch of differences, and we're going to get running on some offline models. And then I'm going to see how well it integrates with editors like Cursor and other things. So that way we can actually, like, is it actually worth it to do these things? Can you Avante well? Can you do this? Can you get Copilot like autocomplete? Because you know what? Forget these people, okay? If there is one thing that we can do, is maybe we could create something that's just like, yo, screw those guys. You know what I mean? I stared at my terminal facing those red error messages that I hate to see. An AWS error glared back at me. I didn't want to figure it out without AI's help. After 12 years of coding, I'd somehow become worse at my own craft. And this isn't hyperbole. This is the new reality for software developers. I cannot tell you how many people, like, I think even Theo tweeted this, which was, it said something like, oh, when ChatGPT's down or whatever AI service is down, I guess I can't code. Brother, I mean, this blows my mind. Dude, I am so happy that I still am like 8 months no AI during development. This blows me away. The addiction, right? And it's not an addiction. I honestly think what happens in this case is that emotional resilience is like a requirement when it comes to programming. And what is emotional resilience? What do I mean when I say that? What I mean is that when you are off programming, there is going to be hurdle after hurdle and just difficult things. And so when you're programming, you became immune to difficult things. In fact, sometimes the difficult thing was, in fact, what motivated you to finish a problem. It's the thing that drives you. It's the thing that earworms you and makes you want to run as fast as you can and read everything and just constantly go after it at all times. But what ends up happening? You've now kind of offloaded a lot of this error problem off to something else that can give you an answer right away, which, by the way, is amazing. I'm not even discounting the fact that that exists at all. I think that that's actually a really great thing to have in your tool belt, especially if it actually works. That seems awesome. But the reality is that when you take away that thing that motivates a lot of people, that desire to crush out problems, the ability to become better, when you go back and you get inevitably one of these red errors, it just feels exhausting. And that's because you have no more emotional resilience. It's actually taken the thing that makes you an amazing engineer and robbed you of it. So please, if you are using AI, don't just default to using it at all points. You know, there's things you should do, like, right, if I have to set up a JavaScript build tool system, you know what I'm going to do? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to ChatGPT, because it's like, I never want to learn this ever in my life, and I just have to do this because I have to do this. And then inevitably it gives you a bunch of bad answers, and so then you have to go, okay, I guess this sucks. I guess I'm just doing something different because this is horrible. I hate every part of this. And then you end up building it yourself in a different way. But nonetheless, I'd still default to using AI because I don't ever want to do that, okay? Yeah, Webpack this. Dude, truer words have never been spoken. ChatGPT and Webpack is like a match made in heaven. It's just like, give me a Webpack. I've had to Webpack a couple times in the last few years. Just even not because I want to, because I had to. And that was one great thing about AI. I totally understand why people want that. I don't want to learn Webpack, okay? I just want to just get through it. And so I totally get it. I totally get the motivation why people do this, right? I had to watch a junior dev debug a code. He went straight to ChatGPT. The error was so obvious. Yeah, I know. It is. This can be very painful. Like when you don't know how to read stack traces, it's like extremely important to learn how to read errors. Like that is a skill that will pay dividends for literally the rest of your development career. Yeah, you know what? This is a very good counter take right here. This is a great counter take. Becoming burnt out due to solving problems versus being able to breeze through a whole bunch of problems. I think this is also, that's the problem. I don't think AI is like a strict harm. I think it's an even mixture of both great and bad at the exact same time. And you have to learn how to know when and when not to use it. Let's see. It crept up on me subtly. First, I stopped reading documentation. Why bother when AI could explain things instantly? Oh my gosh, this is so good. Then, my debugging skills took the hit. Stack traces now feel unapproachable without AI. I don't even read error messages anymore. I copy and paste them. Why not? I mean, honestly, why not? Can we all be real? Like, there's going to be people that are going to be like, why would you do that? It's just like, why wouldn't you? Right? Do you still memorize phone numbers when you get a phone number, or do you just simply put it in your phone? It'd be silly for you to try to memorize every phone number. And I think that's kind of what people equate this to. You often hear that as like an argument, like, oh, would you memorize phone numbers? Of course you don't memorize phone numbers. Why would you ever do that? But I'm going to hit you with a slightly different thing. Phone numbers are like a pointer into memory. They're a fixed pointer that does not change unless if somebody has some crazy life event that happens, okay? So let's just remember that for just a second, okay? Because I think that's very important. A stack trace is not a fixed point. It's not a fixed point. It changes constantly based on the code, based on what you're doing, based on the error message. It has a variety of things that need to happen, and it has a variety of meanings, right? Sometimes the most important line is the first line. Sometimes the most important thing is like the third or fourth line. You kind of have to start getting this sense. It tells you a lot about what's happening in your program. It tells you a lot about kind of what is going on or the assumptions being made until it gets to that point and explodes. And so I think that's extremely important, and it's much, much different than memorizing a phone number. Phone numbers don't change. They're not supposed to change. I've had the same phone number for 10 years. I had 2 phone numbers in my lifetime. The first one was only screwed over because Verizon Wireless absolutely screwed me and effectively took my phone number from me. So excluding that, I've had the same phone number my entire life. Stack traces, they're unique, okay? They're little fingerprints at all times. And so learning how to use them is extremely important. It's not the same. It's not the same as reading or as memorizing a phone number. It's a very bad analogy. I want you guys to know something, and I think this is extremely important to understand, okay? Right now is the most unique time to be a junior in all of programming. There is not a single better or worse time to be a junior. What I see and what I hear from tons of people, and we do have a college where I'm at, and I do talk to some of the kids just trying to understand what's happening. And this is what I see. There are 2 pools of candidates, the first pool and the second pool. The first pool is doing exactly what is needed to get through school. They don't actually have any sort of practical experience. They just feel like internships should be on the other side. They're feeling a bit freaked out when they don't get any opportunities for internships. That's just the way it is, right? They can't do FizzBuzz without Jippity. But why would you ever need to? I only ever write code with AI. Why would I ever need to know how to do it without it, right? This is kind of the whole excuse. Whereas there's this other side that are these really go-getters that are really attempting to figure out how to be the best at what they do. They're really actually trying to learn and take and make like the most of their education. And what I foresee going to happen is that this huge group all together, a huge portion of that group is going to be absolutely having the hardest time ever to find a job. And over the course of the next probably year, my guess is that this group will also probably struggle finding a job. But then something's going to happen. The realization that you simply can't take something that simply predicts the next set of tokens as a means for you to be able to abstain from hiring software engineers. And the greater and greater needs going to develop. And those that kept on and persevered, I believe, will have a much easier time and a much better time finding jobs because they'll be the most equipped. And guess what? The junior is going to be so back coming up here. That mid-level, it's going to be so back coming up here because we're going to make this Faustian bargain that for somehow this token predictor is going to be able to get better quicker than it is your code base is going to get shittier. And we all know a secret of life, which is code bases progress towards shittiness. And that is all it is. That's all it's ever been. That's all it's ever going to be. All code bases eventually hit the shitty point, or you have Linus at the top calling you retarded. Like, there's not a lot of opportunities. Either you get massively insulted by this guy in the most abrasive and uncomfortable way of all time, or you have a crappy code base. Like, there's no other option here. Like, that's it. That's the two options. And I don't like option one because it hurts my feelings. So I typically live in option two, okay? Anyways, I've become a human clipboard, a mere intermediary between my code and an LLM. Previously, every error message used to teach me something. Now, the solution appears magically and I learn nothing. The dopamine hit of instant answers has replaced the satisfaction of genuine understanding. Ooh, ho, 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 ho. That's the greatest thing of all time, is learning how to be satisfied over time versus the instant dopamine hit. I have had no more fun in my entire lifetime than honestly just reading top to bottom through all of this. You know, I've just been enjoying it. Typically, I don't ever read top to bottom through documentation like this. I typically read some of it, try to build something, read some of it, kind of going back and forth between the two. But I have just been going through all of this, and it's long, it's arduous, it feels like it's taking forever, but man, it's been so dang good. It's been so dang great. Loving it. Absolutely loving it. I just haven't done it in so long because the days of Googling and all that have kind of replaced some of my habits. And I'm realizing that I've erred in my way. Let's see. Deep comprehension is the next thing that was affected. Remember spending hours understanding why a solution works? Now I simply implement AI suggestions. If they don't work, I improve the context and just ask the AI again. It's prompting skill issues. It's a cycle of increased dependency. Dude, I love this. This is so good. This is so good. This is such great observations. I feel like this guy's putting into words all the words that I've said a cajillion times, but putting it in a more like condensed way. Then come the emotional changes. Previously, it was part of the joy of programming to solve new problems. Now I get frustrated if AI doesn't give me a solution in 5 minutes. Anybody feel this way? By the way, it's okay to feel this way. Like, you should feel this way. If you are relying on AI heavily, you should feel this way. Because that's how instant answers work. Is once you get used to something, it's very easy to continue to be used to that thing, right? They call, well, I forget who, I honestly, it was a great insight made by the biggest turd of a man. Okay, second biggest turd. Obviously, biggest turd being Andrew Tate. The next biggest turd would be Dan Blazarian. But Dan Blazarian made this point where if he stays at a 5-star hotel, it feels painful to him because it's not nice enough. He's like, oh, is this what it feels like to be one percenter? Ew, gross. Right? He's just not used to it at all. But it's such a great observation in the sense that when you become so used to something, going back to something else actually makes you feel like pain. It makes you feel unused to this thing. That's why it's called lifestyle creep, is because it slowly happens over time, and then you forget what it takes to be your previous self. Like me, when I was 24 years old, living in an apartment with the person downstairs threatening to kill me, that's a much different me than the person who is currently living in a house where I stream from a horse barn and I live on land and I live away from people, right? Like, those are very two different people. And I understand that I've also had lifestyle creep, though I've tried very hard not to have it. It definitely happens. And I feel like lifestyle creep definitely happens with AI. The scariest part, I'm building an AI-powered development tool, but I can't shake the feeling I'm contributing to the very problem that's eroding our collective skills. The rehab plan. I'm not suggesting anything radical like going AI free completely. That's unrealistic. Instead, I'm starting with the no AI days, 1 day a week, where read every error message completely, use actual debuggers again, write code from scratch, read source code instead of asking AI. Beautiful. What a very great way to do things. I would suggest kind of going maybe there's a better way to do this, maybe time boxing all of your problems. Every time you get an error message, you're not allowed to go to an AI unless if you've opened up a debugger, added several print statements, done whatever you think you should do, and then have some sort of minimum time box. Like, hey, when you get an error, you don't go to an AI until you've spent 30 minutes or some minimal amount of time. Let's see. I won't lie. It sucks. I feel slower, dumber, and more frustrated. But I can also see the difference. I feel stronger connection with my code and a sense of ownership, which had slowly disappeared with AI. Plus, I learned a lot more. Honestly, this was the primary reason why I turned off Copilot, because one day Copilot was off, and I was using Lua. I believe it was Lua or Go. I can't even remember. And I went dang it, what was the syntax for a for loop again? And like, I've programmed this language for a long time, and I'm sitting there looking at it going, what was that syntax again? And then at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, what has happened to my brain? Like, I know this. I know this. What the F has happened to me? And so then it's like I couldn't even remember that it's key, value, range, thing, that, right? It's just like, I forgot. Yes, I can go look up a phone number. We can all go look up a phone number. But remember, that's mental overhead that you have to have every time you want to do it. And I'm not saying Copilot's bad. Can I tell you another truth? I think I like programming with Copilot more than I like programming without Copilot. I can move so fast. I can tab my way. I can type very fast, and Copilot can make me go even faster. But I kept introducing bugs. I kept missing things. I kept doing all these mistakes. I forgot how to do a for loop, so I had to just give it up, okay? I had to give it up for myself, not for anything else. Skill issue, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Skill issue. Cancel this man, absolutely. He's arguing for laps and tab completions and IDEs. Oh, that's fair. Yeah, I did it for myself. I didn't do it because I think it's evil. I did it because I needed it for my own cognitive health, because I know I know myself. What's the phrase? Know thyself. You know what I do? Whenever there's an easier path, I take the easier path. That's me. I know myself. So when there's an easier path, I take it 100% of the time. And I realize that when I do that, it causes me to have the effect of the easier path. And so that's why I have to intentionally say no to things and take the harder path and opt into it. I know myself. I know I have the willpower to opt into the harder things. And so I will just opt into the harder things when I realize what the easier path does. That's it. We're not becoming 10x developers with AI. We're becoming 10x dependent on AI. There's a difference. Every time we let AI solve a problem, we could have solved ourselves. We're trading long-term understanding for short-term productivity. We're optimizing for today's commit at the cost of tomorrow's ability. Beautiful, beautiful line. I'm not suggesting we abandon AI tools. That ship has sailed, but we need rules of engagement. Here's some ideas I have. By the way, I think you can abandon it for periods of time. I think you can abandon it and then just use something like Agility and ask it, hey, give me links to something to be able to look up this stuff and go read the documentation. Maybe have better pointers, right? I think that's completely fine. In fact, even if you're using Cursor, I still think you can do the same thing where you still mostly solve your own stuff and then dip your toes back in when you need to. No AI for problems you haven't tried to understand first. I think that's good. Read and understand all AI suggested solutions. I don't think you should be... Okay, so this is one of the problems. Reading is not the same as writing understanding. Can we all agree that writing understanding is much different than reading understanding? Yes, I believe so. I 100% believe that they're very, very different set of skills. Apparently you can learn to read assembly in a very small period of time. I learned to read Zig and Jai in a very small amount of time. Writing Jai or writing Zig effectively is very, very different than reading it effectively. Those are two very different skills. Reading is much, much simpler than writing. Because for writing, you have to understand it through and through. And all the relationships outside of it. Whereas reading, you can just look at that and understand what it, in its own little sense, is doing. Regular periods of code without AI assistance, very good. Focused learning patterns, not just fixing immediate issues. Absolutely. Absolutely. I won't lie. I don't think I'll be able to follow these rules all the time, but it's a start. And I strongly believe anyone who's new to programming should definitely follow all these rules. I believe if you're new to programming, you should actually not. Hard stance. This is one of my hardline stance. If you're brand new to coding, do not use an AI tool. Read, learn, struggle, LSPs are fine. I used an LSP. NetBeans, there was no such thing as LSPs when I started. NetBeans had an autocomplete for the Java SDK. I used that to be able to peruse the documentation and go to documentation faster. Than when I got confused, I'd have to open up. Remember how Java docs used to have like 3 different iframes? I used to then open it up from NetBeans into the 3 different iframe thing and then navigate around and try to understand and read through it. It was beautiful. Was it great? Was it efficient? No, not at all. It was not efficient. But man, did I learn. Man, did I learn a ton of stuff by going through all of that. That's actually, I still think that that's what made me the programmer I am today, is having to go through all of that. And I feel like so many people are robbed of that experience. And perhaps this is one of those things, like, you know how when you watch like John Wick, Marcus in John Wick 1, Marcus, he is the guy that they tried to sell out John Wick 2, and he ends up saving John Wick. Why? Because they called him part of the old guard, right? People, the honor that is among the old guard of the thieves, but the new ones, they're only in it for the money, and they have much different intentions and understanding. And I can't ever tell what side I am on these arguments. And what I mean by that, is the old guard good? It's very, very difficult. Is it good for you to have to read documentation and use LSPs? Does that actually produce better learning than using AI and having an AI explain it to you and move through solutions faster? You as a new programmer, which one's actually better for you? I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I feel that the old guard approach is better than the new guard approach. But that's also because I grew up in the old guard, right? That's the hard part. And even AI walking you through it, at the end of the day, the reason why I say this is that AI walking you through it, it produces some code, and then it gives you like, step 1, this is what happens. Step 2, this is what happens. Step 3, this is what happens. And you go, okay, I see this code. Okay, yeah, it does that. Okay, I understand this. Yeah, it does this. Okay, yeah, I understand this. Yeah, it does this. Okay, yeah, I understand this. Okay, take the code, paste it into my editor, bada bing, bada boom. Fantastic. I learned, I read the steps. It walked me through the solution. I got the code. Let's go. You don't actually understand it. You read it. It's in, it's out. You didn't actually derive the solution and understand it from the deep parts, right? This is the reason why people are always just like, oh, I don't need to know how to do a binary search. It's just like, bro, you already know how to do a binary search. It's already in your heart. It's not hard at all, okay? This is a very simple algorithm. You don't have to memorize the code. I have no idea what the binary search code looks like, but I can whip out a proper binary search in about 5 minutes worth of coding. Why? Because I simply know the algorithm. I've ingested it. I've walked through it. I've thought about it deeply. And now I could just give that binary search the biz because I understand it. Anyways, sorry. Right now, somewhere a new programmer is learning to code. They'll never know the satisfaction of solving problems truly on their own. They'll never experience the deep understanding that comes from wrestling with a bug for hours. They should. You should. Very good skill. Again, emotional resilience is so important. We are creating a generation of developers who can ask an AI the right questions but can't understand the answers. Every time AI goes down, they're exposed as increasingly helpless. As of now, AI isn't capable enough to replace programmers fully, but this will only get worse as it improves. Yes, as it improves naturally, well, really, it's not that the AI is probably going to improve drastically in the sense that people think it's going to improve. I believe what's going to improve much, much more is going to be the tooling around AI that's even more integrated, that's even more amazing, and then that's going to cause more people to become dependent because now you actually have like this, just like your full environment, right? I think one of the biggest, this is going to be such a hot take, I think one of the biggest damages to all programmers of all time is the green play button that existed either in NetBeans, that's in Visual Studio Code. That green play button has made more people not know how to simply build a project than almost anything else. You never even learned for 1 second that you got to go on the command line and enter in like 4 things to be able to do something. And so there's this like weird hesitation / anxiety. And I know a bunch of you know exactly what I'm talking about. That weird anxiety / hesitation when something breaks and it's beyond the green button when it breaks. And you don't understand how to make that jump because you don't even know what that green button is doing. Let's go. I think that's a W take. I think it's a W take. And here's the thing. I love the green button, right? The more convenient your life is, the better. But that's not an excuse not to know what it is. Like, imagine this. It's like going back to the phone number analogy, it's like not even knowing what a phone number is. You like rub two phones together and you get it. And at some point you have to like make a phone call and you're like, oh shit, how do I call this business? Oh, there's like all these numbers. What do I do with the numbers? Right? It's like at some point you could actually not know how to use the most basic functions because it's just not there. Right? Siri, call the place with sushi on 7th Street now. Siri, help! Right? Apple Intelligence, I need you! All right, anyways. Try coding without AI just for one day. It might surprise you. Yeah, I think one of the greatest videos I've ever seen in my lifetime was the Copilot pause, because it identified the thing that I didn't have the right word for it, but I felt it. Like I knew that I would start typing and just like freeze, and my brain would actually turn off for a quick second, right? And I didn't understand what was happening. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm having the Copilot pause. Like I see what's happening. I've developed a problem in which I just like stop. Anyways, I'm going to just say something. And I know this is, again, in our 21st century, this is considered like a bad thing. Rote memory is a good thing. Do it. Study, practice, memorize. You will be happy you did that. Learn your syntax. Learn it so well that you'll never forget it. Like, that's a good thing. Trust me, it will pay off later. Rote, R-O-T-E, not W, R-O-T-E. Rote. Like that's where you just do something over and over again and become good at it. Think of like something like katas, right? Katas. Katas are good because they make you do something over and over again until you stop having it up here and you understand it down here, right? Like you understand it at such a deep, deep level. By the way, Hertz, your age is showing, right? And it's a different kind of understanding. That was a great article. Great article. Great article. And here's the person. Go check them out, right? Hey, it's happened. Go give them a follow. That was a great piece of advice. Great job. Anyways, hey, the name is, people always think that I'm just completely against AI at all points. I'm really not, okay? I'm really not against AI at all. I think there's a lot of fun stuff. I think AI is great. There's a lot of stuff that I think is very, very fantastic. But I just don't want you guys to be dependent. Like, I don't want you guys to have a dependency, okay? Don't do that. Don't become dependent. Become independent. That's the whole point of learning to program. The reason why you learn to program and all that is because you wanted to have some sort of independence in your life. Don't just go from one dependency to the next. It's crazy. Don't be that person. Trust me, it's never worth it. Again,